Alright, this video I'm going to explain that God is real because humanity has a purpose, and to think about God is to know that you are human, to have awareness of things in the universe. And Stephen Hawking said that life in the universe is abundant as to how big it is and how many planets there are in it. And so there must be life. And I made the DMT experience video like a few years ago, like 5 to 10 years ago, and I got like almost, if I still had it, I'd probably have around like almost 1 million views from it. But I deleted it because I got scared. Like I thought the feds were gonna come watch the video and try to like question me or something like that. But anyways, so I deleted it, and so I've still been like enthusiastic about thinking, and I understood that God is real because as a human, humanity has a purpose, and it's to be eternal to live eternally in the universe, and to also achieve immortality in the universe through like immortality elixirs to actually be immortal, and there's probably some life elixirs to live longer as well. And so, but as for humanity as a whole, as a mass race of like conscious beings, humanity needs to be able to live safely and assuredly as long as possible in the universe. And to do that, you'd have to know how to live as long as possible in the universe as a human being, as a whole species, and as a whole like age gap, the lifespan of a human being itself individually, and down to the human masses. That clearly shows that as a whole you're on the right track if each individual can live longer, and as the whole species, then humanity can live as long as well, because and achieve an eternal state of as a race in the universe. And to do that, you gotta like do a few things, and it's to be holy and follow God, because that's what God is like, is to be eternal. God is eternal, and so you gotta achieve that for the human race to be eternal like God. And right now it's like there's a lot of pollution and war and violence, and there's some hunger, and there's like negative energies of people doing like demonic like rituals and summoning evil spirits and stuff like that. And so that's why it's tough to live, and you have to have humanity on the right track. You'd have to have human beings biophysiologically breathe fresher air and eat purer food, and have DNA be in the liking of God. And that is to, what is the DNA trying to be when it's trying to be like God, what God wants it to be? How is the DNA supposed to be? And down to the human being, or like up to the human being, down to the cells, and how the organs function, you'd have to breathe better air and cleaner air and get rid of the fossil fuel. And so then you'll be living longer, and there's less chance of diseases, and then you can like think better, and creativity is better as well. And so if you do that for the whole human race, you would need to put air purifiers and water purifiers on all automobiles, from air on airplanes to water to cars. And you'd have to put water purifiers on the boats, and air purifiers on the airplanes, air purifiers on cars and motorcycles, and so then humanity as a whole can breathe fresher air. And you got to do that throughout the whole earth, as well as have all automobiles use electric power, or power from the sun, converting it to electric power, or magnetic power through free energy towers or Tesla towers, and have automobiles with air purifiers around the whole earth and have that for the whole human species. And then humanity will be breathing fresher air and using safer power sources of transportation and automobiles, so that they won't be toxifying itself as a whole human species on Mother Earth, living on its landmass, on the outer landmass of Mother Earth. And so that's where we are in the Milky Way galaxy, Earth, in the solar system, and we need to get rid of the demonic rituals as on Mother Earth as well for the human species as a whole. I guess through like the UN, apply all these things I'm stating, and make sure that it's eating like pure food, like hemp, and make sure that it doesn't pollute itself, so that like the polar ice caps melt and cause like a global flooding in 100 years. And so then we would need to measure that as well throughout the future, and be able to build garden towers if necessary with like vegetables, fruits, crops, medicine, herbal medicine, and learn more about and do that to prevent global flooding, and learn about herbal medicine more, so that we can have DNA be as like God wanted it to be. That's why the Bible stated that God bared like every living plant on earth and fruit, for vegetables and stuff like that, grains. And so that will help humans be more like that, what the DNA to be like God. That's what God would want it to be like, not taking big pharmaceutical pills from Big Pharma. That's not natural, so then we would like not need to do that, and those cause fatal overdoses as well. And so you could see why we need to start switching to researching that more, herbal medicine, to keep our DNA pure and living longer. And there's no chances of, also adding in the factor of no chances of fatal overdoses as well. And so we need to keep humanity living and be able to pretty much prevent itself from all forms of disaster to cause mass extinction as a whole. And then we can be eternal like God. And the path clearly states to be holier and to keep the biophysiological being pure and natural as possible, to be like God, and as herbal and plant-like, to mix with the DNA, to be like God, for the DNA to be pure. That's how God would want it to be. And so that's the purpose, is to be eternal and to be like God, and for the whole human species. And that's when you can start building motherships, because you can withstand all forms of disasters, because the path is to be holier. So as a whole human species, we would need to relinquish darkness, and that would be the path for the human species within the universe, to greatly accelerate the evolution of the human species and its purpose in the universe, to relinquish darkness, to be eternal in the universe, so that we can be infinite like God, like our DNA that we should be, by associating with plants as well. And so if we're supposed to be holier as a whole race, we would need to get rid of all the darkness. We have to prevent ourselves to prevent mass extinction within its own race. And to get rid of diseases, we would need to live more in a pure fashion, and get rid of evil, dark cults, switch to more eco-friendly transportational powers like magnetic or solar, even for the mothership. And I stated in the video prior how each continent has a purpose to build the mothership in the future, because I've envisioned it already, and I did the work, and I came down to how to actually keep the human race eternal and infinite, how I've been stating what I've stated in this video. And so in the universe, we have to keep ourselves infinite and prevent ourselves from pretty much getting extinct or getting attacked on. And so to maintain the highest percentage of being eternal in the universe is to be holy and to not get into trouble and get attacked. So we would need to like relinquish darkness within ourselves, to relinquish darkness within the universe, and that would be the path for the human species, and that clearly shows God exists, because that's what God is a creator and something that is holy, like a creator that is holy. That's what God is, a creator that is holy, and almighty, and infinite, and eternal, and immortal. And so what I stated is how to actually be on the path to being infinite in the universe. And so that's the path, but that's what I stated is what also entails on what we need to do to actually become eternal, infinite, and immortal. So if I stated how to do it, that means I'm at a state of being that I can where I reached immortal being for the being and for the whole human race, because I'm sharing my purpose with you all, and to prove that God is real, because God kept me alive from a car accident when I should have been dead. And so God kept me alive, and I realized the reason and purpose for living in God, knowing that God exists, that God is an almighty, mysterious creator, and can do anything at any time if you believe in God and you follow God. And so that's how I've came to the realization that the information I'm giving is my purpose to be like God, and that it's pretty archangelic, and I do pray to the archangels and look at sacred geometry like Archangel Metatron's cube. And as a child I didn't really understand it, but now as I do, it all makes sense now to be like God, and I understand now what God is. Like, my purpose and call is to explain this video in this video for the human species to pretty much save itself from mass extinction, and proving that God exists by stating how to reach infinity, immortality, and eternity for the human being and for the human species. And God gave every plant on earth, and we can learn off that, and I guess some of the grains as well are like sediment rock material, and we can learn to create elixirs as well as our own human species, and create life elixirs through plants and herbs. And I think that's what God intended for us to learn, is to use plants and herbs, and I guess some rock to create life elixirs, maybe some crystals, and I guess crystals are a form of rock, and maybe some form of metals, possibly. But I'm pretty sure it would mostly be like a mixture of herbs or something like that. That's what it would consist of. And so that's the information I've given, and I've pretty much stated. It's like envisioning what I know and envisioned of the mothership. Pretty much states I know how to keep the human species eternal and maintain it to be eternal and infinite. And so by doing what I've stated, by then humanity is like God, and so we are able to build a mothership, and so we can live in the universe, and that clearly shows we have evolved in the universe to the point where we can create a mothership and sustain ourselves eternally and infinitely in the universe, because we have came to the divine harmonic resonance of the whole mass species, achieving a holy state of awareness and enlightenment, so that we can keep away from trouble and keep away from ourselves from being attacked and extinct, to be like God. And so that's the path for the human species. So that clearly shows God exists, because I follow God, and that's what has been helping me to give out the information that I am stating about how to keep the human species eternal and infinite in the universe. And it involves a mothership, and I know how to build a mothership starting from Mother Earth. And by then, if I am able to take an immortality elixir, I can learn to create another mothership on another planet, because if you have a mothership, that means you have another exoplanet to live on for the whole human species. And so it's not like that's how to build a mothership. That is how to build a mothership, but I also envisioned a mothership itself, so that shows I can see the future. And I don't think humanity as a whole can build a mothership by the time of a normal human being's lifespan, within 100 years. So if I envisioned a mothership, then that means I should be able to live for thousands of millions of billions of years, maybe for it be eternal and infinite and immortal itself as a human being in this body by taking a life elixir, because I envisioned a mothership. So that shows that we need to create a mothership. This is like Noah's Ark. That's how I see it now. And so we would need help with the extraterrestrials, because that's how you build the mothership, is having affiliations with extraterrestrials from the nearby constellations. And it's like a puzzle piece, not just to have one extraterrestrial race help us to build the mothership, because then it would be designed in a certain way. The design and technology and mechanics itself should be based around God. And so that goes down to like the archetype and the imagery, like per species as well, to be like God. And so I understand how to build a mothership in the eye of God, in the image of God, by having certain extraterrestrial species build the mothership. And I stated in the video prior which extraterrestrial species, and it would be Africa would be affiliated with the Pleiades to build the exterior. That's what I envisioned first, the exterior. And then Latin America to build the solar siphon to use the sun. And China to build, Asia to help build a solar tank, a reservoir for the sun. And we would eventually be using free energy power for the motor as well, for the engine, for the mothership. And so I clearly stated some of the key components, which would be Pleiades, Orion, Sirius. Lyra can help with the engine, and these extraterrestrial species we would be in affiliation with the Galactic Federation of Light, and that would be like humanity's headquarters. And so I'm connecting the threads for humanity to stay eternal and the steps to be eternal. And so I could be a great commander, an alpha commander of the human species to help keep it eternal. I know my presentation isn't as perfect as it should be, but I clearly stated it, and I would like your thoughts and comments on the fact that I explained to you how we should keep the human species eternal and to be like God, to be infinite, immortal, and eternal.